A web browser is one of the most common pieces of software on any device, whether you're running a computer, a laptop, or any sort of mobile device like a tablet or a phone. Our web browsers allow us to get on the internet and start searching for things and browsing out to different sites. We use web browsers nearly every day for our Googling, for our visiting our news sites, going on our different social media websites, going on our banking, and things like that. Now, it is possible to access certain things from apps, but for the most part, almost all of our browsing is done through web browsers. Here's some important features of web browsers. First, we're going to be covering tabs and windows. These are very, very common when you're in a web browser to have multiple tabs open and having multiple windows. Then we're going to be covering history, cache, and cookies. From there, we're going to be covering downloads. You definitely went out and downloaded things before. We're going to be talking about extensions and add-ons, as well as different types of things like ad blockers and overall different types of extensions that you can use in order to improve your experience when going out on the internet. From there, we'll be talking about pop-up blockers as well, followed by private browsing, a default search engine and what that is, browser profiles for different types of browsing and through different accounts, as well as incognito browsing. Let's talk about tabs and windows here. So in a web browser, a window is this main area that we have open. For example, on Microsoft Explorer or on Edge here, we have this entire window being open. These here in red, these two are our tabs. Overall, Windows, pretty simple. You've definitely used it before. It just allows you to open, minimize. That would be considered having your window open. And then tabs are the individual web pages that you actually have open inside of that view. Obviously, your tabs can be running in the background. You could have this open in the background as well, but this is what it looks like when it's actually up and on your screen. Tabs and windows are just there to keep things organized and for us to understand where we're at. Same thing, here's some more examples of tab 1, 2, and 3. As you can see here on screen, we've got a few different websites open. From here, we have history, cache, and cookies. So your browser history, your cache, and your cookies, they're all features that keep information about our browsing habits, our internet history, what sites we visited, and they also help us keep information for when we go back to websites. So our internet history or browser history keeps a list of the websites that we visited so we can actually look back and see where we've been. Our cache saves temporary website files to help when we revisit websites after we've been to them once or twice or however many times. What this does is it lets things load quicker. So if things are cached, that means that they're going to load faster the next go around. So if you've been to a website a few times, odds are the next time you go to it, it's going to load a little bit quicker as long as you have your cache enabled and you have everything saved there. Cookies are kind of similar. They store data to remember our preferences on a website. So for example, if we have on some websites, it allows you to have a light view and a dark view. Let's just say we had a dark view on a website and that was our preference. Our cookies would actually save that information. So next time it loads that preference. Same thing with our logins. When we log into different places, as long as we have our cookies, we're good to go. So if we clear our cookies, we'll be logged out of our different websites and we'll have to log back in. And not only that, it's going to forget our preferences. One thing and one word about this: history, cache, cookies. Your web browser normally, for the most part, automatically tracks these. So you don't have to worry about manually enabling things or really messing around with things. Sometimes there's very, very few times in life where I've seen in IT where you really do have to clear your cookies. It's not that common. Sometimes it does happen. One of the times that you can understand if you need to is if you visit a website and it's not loading for you, and then you open it in incognito and it loads for you on the same computer, same device. Odds are you probably should clear your cache or your cookies. But again, this is pretty rare. This doesn't happen that often, but it might come up in troubleshooting if you work in IT or in help desk. Next up is downloads, and you've more than likely downloaded something before. Downloads, no matter if it's a PDF, a document file, an image, a video, an invoice, no matter what kind of document it is or file, you've downloaded it from the internet and it goes through your web browser first, and then it'll appear in your downloads in your file history. So downloads, you should be very, very familiar with this if you use the internet. And this is just our web browser allowing us to download things that get stored then on our local computer or our laptop. Next up is extensions and add-ons. These are just simple, small features that we can add to web browsers, especially on Chrome. They're pretty useful. There's an example here of a person's ad block, Jungle Scout, keywords everywhere, and tag assistant. So for example, ad block, very, very common extension or add-on to Chrome. This disables many, many different ads on websites, and it blocks literally hundreds of ads sometimes when you go to websites. So you can also get other types of extensions and add-ons like password managers, and there's a ton of different ones out there. They don't add a crazy amount of function to your web browser, but they are very useful. Here we've got pop-up blockers, and pop-up blockers on the side, they prevent pop-ups. So if a website is malicious and it's trying to send you to 20 other websites, a pop-up blocker will prevent that. An ad blocker, on the other hand, it just prevents ads on a page. So pop-up blockers, pop-ups tend to be a little bit more malicious because they're trying to send you somewhere to another website, or they're trying to pop something up automatically, like a different window, an ad, or things like that. Ad blockers, on the other hand, those just block ads in general. Pop-up blockers are normally built into a web browser automatically, like Chrome automatically will block pop-ups, but ad blockers tend to be extensions or add-ons that just block ads. Here we have private and incognito browsing. This is a pretty simple concept. It's just a browser mode that lets you use the internet, do searches and things like that without saving anything to your search history, your cookies, your cache, or provide any login information. It is somewhat useful, but nowadays most people understand what private or incognito browsing is. And one thing with it is it's not like a VPN, and it's not necessarily always that anonymous. For example, if you're using a computer that you don't have complete control of, you're not doing private browsing even in incognito, because someone could have a keylogger or they could have a virus on their computer. You just never know. If you're ever using someone else's device, you can use private or incognito browsing. It's better than using it without, but just keep in mind, incognito or private browsing, it doesn't protect your IP address. It doesn't hide it from anyone. So when you go to a website still sees your IP address. And additionally, it doesn't protect your logins. It doesn't protect what you type. All it does is it does not save any sort of internet history from that specific device. So keep that in mind. It doesn't protect everything. Same thing if you go on Facebook or you go on Instagram or you go on Amazon on someone else's computer and you use this, you don't know what they have on their computer. They might have some type of virus or some sort of way to track what you're typing in, and incognito does not protect against that. So just keep that in mind. This is another example of incognito browsing. This one is more from the perspective of Microsoft Edge. So this is what it looks like if you're using private browsing or incognito in Microsoft Edge. Next up is default search engine. This is simply the default website that your browser uses to search the internet. So for example, Google Chrome uses Google, Microsoft Edge defaults to searching Bing. There's new AI web browsers out there though now. They automatically, instead of Googling something or looking something up on Bing or another search engine, they route your search to AI. It's pretty cool. If you have some time, look into it. This one, I've used it quite a bit. Comet browser, it automatically searches Perplexity AI. So Comet browser, it doesn't automatically route your search to like Google or to Bing or to any other search place online. It routes it to an AI. It's pretty cool, and I feel like AI browsers are likely going to be very, very popular here in the future. So keep this in mind. Even if these aren't popular now, in the next few years they might be. Next up is browser profiles. So our browser profiles are used primarily in things like Chrome, Edge, different types of popular web browsers. Usually we have to have some sort of account. So for example, let's just use Google Chrome as an example. Google Chrome will pull your Google account and it'll assign your history, your bookmarks, different things like that to your Google account specifically. It used to be when you use Google Chrome or something like that, you would have your history, and that was your history on your entire device only. Nowadays, what happens is because many people have a phone, a tablet, a laptop, a computer, the history follows your account if you have that enabled. Most web browsers nowadays, they do have that enabled. So for example, your account and your web browser will save things like your passwords. It'll allow you to customize your profile and your browsing experience. It'll sync to multiple different devices. It'll allow you to add multiple different types of profiles. It'll allow you to add a guest profile or open up a guest profile. It allows you to do a lot of different things, but just understand browser profiles are essentially sort of like your account for your browser. Usually it pertains to another account like your Google account, your Microsoft account, whatever it is. So we've learned a lot about browsers here. Remember, tabs in Windows, they help us organize multiple websites at once. Very, very good for organization. History, cache, and cookies, they automatically store your browsing data to make websites load faster, help you find your previous activity, and keep your preferences and logins saved and have you logged in. Downloads let you save files from the internet directly to whatever device you're using. Extensions and add-ons provide cool, unique, and extra features to enhance your web browser and your general web browsing activity and experience. Pop-up blockers prevent unwanted pop-up windows while browsing. So if you browse out to a website, oftentimes Google Chrome, it'll automatically block any sort of pop-ups. In terms of ad blockers are different than pop-up blockers. Remember, pop-up blockers automatically come with your web browser most of the time. Ad blockers you usually have to install, and those block ads for you. Next up is private browsing in incognito mode. This helps us surf without saving our history, our cookies, or our cache. This is pretty useful, but again, it does have its limitations. So just keep those in mind that we talked about. Lastly here, default search engines. They just come with the web browser you have. You can set your default search engine, but for the most part, most people just keep them the same. Lastly, our browser profiles let multiple people have separate settings, bookmarks, and history in the same browser, or we can be using multiple accounts, or we could be using different devices and keep the same information, such as settings, bookmarks, and search history. So in this one, we've covered all about browsers. All this information is probably just a refresher. If you've used the internet quite a bit, you're probably familiar with all these different types of settings. But if you're not, go out into your web browser now, do some playing around, do some testing, do some refreshing on your own web browser, whether you're using Chrome, Internet Explorer, Edge, whatever web browser you're using. Go out there if you're not already familiar and test these out.